So you've designed a beautiful email in Figma. Now what? If you haven't designed it yet and you want to know how to approach email design, I've got a full tutorial on that, so I'll stick a link on screen now. But assuming you have designed it, you need to get it from Figma into Klaviyo in a way that actually works. And there's a bit more to it than just exporting it and uploading it straight in there. If you don't export in the right settings, sometimes it looks blurry. And if you don't compress them properly, you end up with massive file sizes and Gmail clips your emails. So I'll walk you through the full process of exporting the emails from Figma, compressing them effectively, and building that email again in Klaviyo. So the designs look sharp, load quickly, and work across all devices. Let's go. Right, so here we are in Figma. This is the email we're going to be exporting. This is one we mocked up for Bristol Fungarium, who are a sort of functional mushroom brand. And you can see down the bottom, they've got some various sort of side-by-side columns and buttons there, which do sometimes trip people up. So I'll talk you through how that all works. So the first thing we need to do in here is to use the slice tool, or just press S on your keyboard. Drag that across this first section that we want to use. Make sure the dimensions are 600, make sure it's lined up to the side. Yep, we can see that on both sides. That's all good. You should always be designing your emails with a 600 width. Then we want to go through this email, taking slices as we go in sort of moderate sizes, particularly anything that's going to need its own link and not too enormous of a picture, because that's going to have a massive file size. So we'll click on this slice, Command C, Command V, we'll drag that down. We'll just do that for the second slice. Come down again, clip that in there, then we'll have this shot by goal on its own. And then for the table section, we need to obviously slice each of these individually. So we'll do the same, Control C, Control V, then we'll drag this across, and we need to make sure the width on the side there is 300, because you need, in a table, you need each adjacent slice or adjacent image, as it will be in Klaviyo, to be the same height, or to be the same width, which will therefore give it the same height, because Klaviyo can mess around with the scale of things sometimes. Control C, Control V, drag that to the side, and then we'll do the same down here, like that. And then obviously for these footer buttons, we need to do the same thing again, so I won't bore you with that, but I'll just slice that up now. Right, so we've got all those slices on the email. Now we need to select all of those slices, come over here to the right-hand panel, export PNG at 2x. I found exporting at 2x gives you the best quality image in Klaviyo once you've compressed it. So we'll export those. Then that's just opened up my Finder on a different window. Now the next thing we need to do, come into a new tab and go to, there are lots of different image compressors you could use. I use TinyPNG, but there's I Love IMG, there's imagecompressor.com, there's lots of different options. So this is TinyPNG, we'll hit this, you can drag and drop them, or you can double click that, open up the file there, and drag them all in. We've got 17 slices. On the free version of TinyPNG, you can get up to 20. I use a free version. If you've got more than 20, you can always just do 2 batches. Then I will download all of those. You can see we've reduced the file size by 68%. Right, so here we are in Klaviyo. We'll create a campaign. It is a single channel email campaign. That's all right. We'll call this Mushrooms because of the brand we're doing it for. And then we'll select whichever segment you want to send it to. This is obviously a test account, so that doesn't matter too much. And then for subject line and preview text, we'll just put in test. But if you do want me to do a video on creating good subject lines and preview text, let me know in the comments and I will get that done. Then we want to come over here, hit create. So this is what you'll be greeted with when you open up a blank campaign. Obviously, it will sometimes auto-populate your brand logo and some colors if you've had them set up in Klaviyo. So I will just delete this logo now, and we'll change the colors on this to white just to make it a nice clean slate. So we've tidied that up. We can keep this unsubscribe. Obviously you need an unsubscribe link in there, and this is the default one, which we'll do for the moment. Then we need to drag in an image block, because that's what we're going to be building this email with those Figma slices. We'll come to select image, upload image, and then we will drag in all of those image files we downloaded from TinyPNG. Now you might notice that there is a compressed option. You can upload the originals directly from Figma into Klaviyo, but I find the compression in Klaviyo is a bit hit or miss. By all means try it, and if it works, if you've got quite simple designs, that may be fine, but I find it better to compress it in a third-party tool like I mentioned earlier and like I showed you in TinyPNG. We'll hit upload all. So those are all in there, that's good. And we'll hit slice 1 for this top one. So there we go, we've got that slice 1 in there. Obviously you need to update the alt text and the link address and the width, but I will go over that in a second. I'll just get the next couple of slices in there because those are the simple ones. To make it easier for myself, I'll just duplicate this one, replace the image, hit slice 2, duplicate this one, click the image, replace, and add in slice 3, which might be on the next page. There we go. And slice 4, exactly the same. Now, if you remember, the next thing we need to do is build this section. So we've got from here down to here all sorted. We now need to put together this little table. So I'll show you how to do that. What we want to do is come to the content blocks and drag in a table. And before we start adding the images, we need to go to styles, and then we need to remove the padding. So remove the block padding and the padding from the cell style. So that means the picture is going to come right to the edge of that block and you won't see it looking all weird with a border on a table like you would if you didn't do that. Then we want 3 rows and we want 2 columns, so that's fine, we don't need to change that. And then we need to change these from text cells into image cells. So we'll do that. And then it is literally the exact same process as we followed with these because these images are all set up and they're identical widths. You'll remember I mentioned it's important to have those widths in Figma as 300, so the 2 images that go side by side are completely uniform in terms of their dimensions. So we'll come here, upload image, and we are going to want slice 5. And then here we'll want slice 6. And then I'll go through and do the others, I won't bore you with that. So those are all in there, and I'll just go ahead and add the footer buttons. Add these ones down here in. Again, for these top 4, I'll use a table. For the shop all button, obviously that will just be an image. And then for these 2 social icons at the bottom, there'll be another table, but obviously just 1 row. So that's all sorted then, all those buttons are in. We've got these top ones in a table. We've then just got a plain image and then we've got a table at the bottom there. Now, just to show you what happens if you don't have uniform dimensions on these products, I'll stick a different button in there, a different image in this table, and you'll see what happens. So there we go, I've put in this FAQ image here, I put that up in the section above it, and because the dimensions are different, it's completely messed up the spacing. So make sure those dimensions are the same. By definition, the heights are going to be the same because of the way we did it, so just make sure the width is 300 if you've only got 2 things in the table. If you've got 3 things in the table, make sure the width is 200. They have to be uniform, otherwise the spacing goes completely berserk. So now it all looks right, but if anyone clicks anything here, nothing's going to happen. So we need to add in some links and some alt text. So we'll start at the top with the hero section. So we need to add in the alt text and the link address. Alt text didn't used to be particularly important. Very few people were exposed to it. As long as you had something in there, you weren't penalized for it. But now with Gemini in Gmail summarizing emails for people, you need to give the AI something to pull from if you're doing an image only email like this is. So we'll take the copy that's in the image and we'll put that as the alt text. So we'll come into Figma. We'll select all these slices. We'll hide those so we can double click on stuff and make our life easier. We'll select the headline and we'll select this top bit of body copy. We'll copy that. We'll come in here and we'll paste that as the alt text. Obviously the link address will be whatever you need it to be. I'll just type in shop link as a placeholder, but that would obviously be the relevant one for your brand. For this one, I put in mushrooms growing in the forest and then a homepage link as an example. Coming down here, you do the same stuff and you do that across the entire email. For these ones, you would link to the product categories, for instance. Down here, you'd link to our story, the blog, FAQ, you get the idea. And obviously your social links at the bottom. Now, once you've done the alt texts and the links, the other important thing to do, which a lot of people miss, is putting restrictions on the image layout. Now, 99 times out of 100, this isn't going to matter, but I've seen before in Outlook particularly, if you don't give it a max width, sometimes when the email renders on someone's computer, everything's stretched out of proportion and the email looks absolutely awful. And I found this to be a good protection against that. So for the main ones, you'll remember we designed everything in 600 pixel width. So for the full width images, we'll come in here and put in 600. We'll do that for all the full width images. And then here we will put in 300, like we spoke about before. 300, 300, you get the message. And that's it. Once you've added the alt text, the links and the widths to all of these images, then the email is good to go. Before you actually go and send it though, always preview it in mobile and then send yourself a test email to make sure all the links are working properly and it's displaying correctly. If you've done everything I've gone over so far, that should all be fine, but it's always worth testing. And that's the full process. Export from Figma at 2x and in PNG format. Compress the images with whichever tool you want to use. If you have any issues with the compression, sometimes they can be a little bit annoying when it comes to gradients. They can look blocky. Just try one of the other image compressor tools. If Klaviyo's image compressor doesn't work, you can use TinyPNG. If that doesn't work, try iLoveIMG or imagecompressor.com. They all take gradients and compress images slightly differently, so just find one that works for you. Then add all your links, all your alt texts, check it's displaying correctly on all devices and send a test to yourself to make sure the links aren't broken. Once you've done it a few times, this honestly takes 10 minutes, but doing it properly makes a massive difference to how your emails perform. If you're watching this and thinking, well, I can do all that, I can import the email, but I don't even know if the design's any good, don't worry. There's a link in the description. You can book in a 15-minute call with me completely for free, and I'll take a look at some of your current designs, your overall strategy, your flows, your campaigns, and point out any holes I can see. And if you found this tutorial helpful, please like and subscribe. I put out new videos like this every week on all things email and SMS marketing. Cheers.